And good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's Registered Managers meeting. We've got a hopefully interesting and useful meeting for you. Um, we have a couple of very good speakers about topics that are going to make a lot of difference to social care over the next period. So I think Dudley's got a few introductory words and then we'll move into the presenters.
Thank you very much for that, Peter, and thank you for everyone joining. It's the last RM meeting of the year. It's been a very interesting year. Probably, if we were to reflect, I'm sure we will have lots of things to say. I think the unfortunate side of things, we've probably have more questions than answers leaving the end of the year with so many things going on that we'll speak about today. But what we will try and do is try and steer you with some of the things and the direction of where they're going, some timelines, and some support that may be available or things that we can do in the meanwhile. I think one of the most important things outside of all of this is that you really have to keep your ear to the ground of all the things that are happening. Unfortunately, I know you have all busy lives, but if we don't, we're going to miss quite a lot of things. And we'll try and do our best to share what we can. But also, as well, if you can as well, there'll be lots of maybe surveys, responses, and consultations, so it's upon yourselves to maybe take the odd 10 minutes to probably see what you can fill out and give feedback, because that's what the either local authorities, government, CQC, or other bodies are reliant upon. And if we don't give them feedback, then they will go ahead and make decisions without us anyway. But yeah, thank you very much for joining as a whole. And we've got, as Peter said, we've got some good speakers in. So please do grab some information and do think about maybe how we can and you can support each other, and do ask questions. Use the chat box if you don't feel that you want to ask questions at the end of the speakers session as well. So thank you very much, Peter. I will bring and give it back to you.
Okay, thanks, Dudley. As Dudley's mentioned consultations and surveys, I know there are too many about at the moment, but please can I press you to do the CQC one? That consultation is very important, and we know that they've had a very poor level of response from social care providers. The Some of the questions are not relevant to you, so ignore those. And it's the free text things. There's a couple of questions that have free text boxes. Please fill in those. If you need any help with them, give us a call, and we'll help. Happy to talk through them, but they are important, so please do them. Without further ado, we'll introduce James Malloy from UNISON. With the Fair Wage Agreement and the Employment Rights Bill, and in that sense, the recent change to government, a different aspect on labour relations. Unions are becoming much more important again, which is in many ways very useful. So we will pass you over to James Malloy from UNISON, and he can lighten your darkness. James, it's all yours.
Apologies about that. Someone tried to turf me out of the room just as I was about to unmute my microphone, which is always how it goes. Yeah, thanks, Peter. Thanks for inviting me along to this. I thought I'd introduce myself. Apologies, I am losing my voice a little bit at the minute, so I might have to cut this a little bit shorter than I was planning to. But yeah, my name's James Malloy. I am a UNISON organiser and social care lead for the Greater London region. If you weren't aware, UNISON is Britain's largest trade union, 1.4 million members. We have over 200,000 members in social care, and we are the biggest and fastest growing union in social care as well. I've been very busy. I was going to have some slides for this prepared, but unfortunately been very busy with a big lobby of Parliament that is happening next week where as part of our campaigns for a fair visa and health and social care, members from up and down the country are going to be visiting Parliament, lobbying the government to keep indefinite leave to remain at 5 years and increase social care funding. It is potentially looking like it's going to be the largest social care event in trade union history, so it's very exciting to be a part of. We're looking at thousands of members registered to attend from all around the country, which is really fantastic. Yeah, one thing I thought, I guess, it would be good to talk about today would be, I guess, with the changes that are coming from the government in the Fair Pay Agreement, as Peter outlined, and the Employment Rights Bill. We are looking at a sort of new time and a new age for sort of trade union relations within the UK. Unlike a lot of other unions, Unison encourages partnership working with our employers. This is quite a long and established standard and practice that Unison has done in the NHS. And basically it means that we work with employers to where the union is recognised and voluntarily recognised by the employer. We work with employers to sort of make sure that there are ready-made structures in place for meaningful consultation, meaningful negotiation. And it means for employers like yourselves, it often saves you time, money, provides reassurance to staff that their views are being valued in decision making. There's a lot of research to sort of back this up, but I think especially with the changing sort of grounds that is happening in employment law, with something like the Employment Rights Bill, which is going to mean that access for trade unions into unrecognised workplaces like social care is going to be completely overhauled. It sort of makes sense for a lot of employers to sort of get in on the ground floor on that with these changes that are coming, if you can recognise trade unions before it's enacted, you can sort of start building up these relationships now, because you're going to be giving access to trade union organisers to meet with staff, to consult with staff, especially in social care, to get social care workers involved in consultations, especially around fair pay agreements and things like that. Unison has been instrumental in the National Care Service and Fair Pay Agreement, which has become government policy. Labour government has worked really closely with Unison policy officers in the decision making around the passing of this legislation. And so by recognising Unison as well, you will then have sorts of access to Unison organisers as part of negotiations that can in turn help inform you around changes in guidance, changes in regulation. And we really are, as a union, committed to partnership working where it works for our members. And like I said, that provision of sort of a ready-made structure of meaningful consultation can save you so much time in the long run in terms of, stopping disputes, stopping disciplinaries from exploding into grievances, etc., making sure that there are processes in place for these sorts of things. Yeah, I don't have too much more to present, to be honest, other than that's the pitch. I'm happy to try and take any questions and answer them to my best ability. I am a trade union organiser as opposed to a policy officer. So if I can't answer any of your questions on fair pay agreement or any of the specifics around Employment Rights Bill, I do apologise, but I might take them away, or I can give you my email to drop me a line and I can put you in the direction of a policy officer who would be better placed to answer those questions.
Okay, thanks, James. We'll take any questions, but if you could let us have something in writing that we can stick on the website and that we can circulate so that people know how to contact you and where to contact people in Unison with any questions. The FWA and the ERB, we have covered those in reasonable detail, but they are updating. So any information that you have that you can let us have to circulate will be very useful, because people are querying. And I see we've got Ali with a question, so fire away, Ali.
Yeah, hi James. I'm from Skills for Care, so we obviously work an awful lot with the workforce, and I'm very interested in the fair pay agreement side of things. How do you see this developing over the next year and a half? Would you expect small companies to begin to bring information into the workplace, or how do we ensure that a representation from you in regards to the fair pay agreement is working on the front line?
How do I see it working? I think that it's still a bit up in the air. I mean, this Labour government have, quite publicly, how should we say, gone back on a few different things that they've said that they're going to do in the first instance in the past couple of years. But from as I understand it, the government is consulting on the fair pay agreement currently. How does it work in the front line in terms of small employers? I think it's got to be really, and Unison's position, as I understand, is that national funding needs to be increased in order for these fairer pay agreements to work. They've said that they've put something like £500 million, I think is the figure off the top of my head, or maybe it's 500 billion. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they said that they're going to put more funding towards it. And obviously we know that it's not actually the full amount. It was already sort of money that had been ring fenced for other things. So the pressure in the Unison campaign that is going against the government is that in order for this something like a fair pay agreement to work in reality and on the ground is for national funding to increase, because we know that a lot of small employers are quite squeezed, and something like this doesn't seem quite feasible for some employers as it stands, right? Does that sort of answer your question?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, because the majority of the business is dominated by the small employers, and yeah, it's easier for larger companies to engage with Unison and what have you. But understanding how a small employer might be impacted by the involvement of Unison, I expect is probably something that a lot of the people on this call now will have much more of a relationship with. Mm. Thank you.
James, I mean, I just want to ask a question as well, because you've touched on a few things like ERB. Thanks for that, Ali. ERB, fair pay agreement as well. So just talking in regards to the resettlement and the time frame, I know you talked about lots has been happening, because I know we do a lot of work with the international workforce. We know it's not just about working here, but it's also many other things that come with it. What things do you feel? What's the main sort of points Unison are pushing for? Because I think a lot of those in the room here have international workers, and a lot of their workforce are probably quite scared and not sure what's going on. And what is Unison? How can Unison help? Because I know that in the past, Unison have tried to really lobby and support those international recruits. So what would you suggest for us as providers and Unison as well?
So it's a really good question, Dudley. And yeah, a lot of our members are here on the sponsorship, on the COS. An awful lot of people that I speak to on a daily basis are exactly like you're saying, Dudley, terrified of these proposed changes in indefinite leave to remain that the government is putting forward. Two ways, really. I mean, Unison members have access to a helpline, which includes specific migration supports. We've partnered with a charity, the JCWI, to provide our members with specialised immigration support and advice around their sponsorship and around displacement. And that's something that's ongoing across the country as part of like a centralised sort of helpline for all members. And then secondly, I mean, the main campaign that I've been working on with members to lobby the government next week about is to keep indefinite leave to remain at 5 years for social care workers currently here in this country. A lot of people came to this country and to work in social care on the promise of it being 5 years, and they really do feel fairly betrayed by these changes to potentially, some staff being told that they're going to have to, they're 1 year away from getting indefinite leave to remain, and they're now looking at, an extra 10 years on top of that. Really a life-changing amount of time for an awful lot of people. And what we're making clear to the government and making clear in our campaigning is that, I think this is an attempt to, it's an immigration policy, but in many ways it is an attack on the social care sector in many ways, in that, if an awful lot of this workforce and a lot of the social care workforce are going to leave to other countries as a result of these changes in indefinite leave to remain, we're going to be looking at mass vacancies across the sector. I mean, who is going to be providing this care? It is a really huge problem for the sector. And we're making that really clear in our campaign and our negotiations with the government, that this isn't just, a moral argument for our members. This is an argument for the entire social care sector as a whole, that it needs better funding, and that we really need to be shoring up our workforce at this time, with so many vacancies in the sector, right?
Definitely. I mean, I put in the chat the consultation for people to actually respond So if you could fill that out and or share it as well, it'd be really helpful. The good thing is it's anonymous, so for those, especially those workers who probably feel if they fill it out, they're going to come knocking on their door, you can fill it out and they won't, no one will know who has filled it out. So please do fill it out and share that as much as possible. That'd be very helpful. I think it's important because we are doing some work, Lcas are doing some work across London with international recruits, but we're also looking about the well-being and support for those actually here, because I know a lot is at the top end, but also as well the day-to-day, how people cope, actually their well-being, how they're managing to understand. And obviously the goalposts, as James has mentioned, may be changing. So what can we do to look out for that as well? In the chat as well, I'll also share there's some up-to-date information from the Home Office and UKVI on what's happening. So you can attend those sessions. There's one actually happening right now as we speak, but there'll be various ones that you can just click on and then attend. One is on this afternoon as well. And you can go to that. But the most important thing is actually from Unison, I know those who have joined, and if your workforce have joined in, because I know the problem that you have as providers, they feel that they can't do anything and they don't have enough power. So actually having a body or a trade union naturally can help support the actual workers, can probably help a lot of the providers. So it's not all on them. So please utilize using things like Unison and share that with your workforce as well. But thanks for that. I'm not sure if anyone else would like to ask questions whilst we've got them here. And I know some of the questions will be some of the time they may not mention the cost, what it entails in joining a trade union very briefly, and I guess some other general benefits as a whole, because I know more and more we're trying to get social care to be more professionalized as an industry and a sector, and most sectors will have things such as trade unions to speak up for them when there are concerns and issues like that as well. So I guess that's the question that I guess I'm leaving. I'm putting out there for you so you can share, so you can help them before you leave. So I guess, as I said, what does it entail to join Unison and anything around that, and what support do you generally get?
As in as a member of staff or as an employer to join Unison, sorry.
I guess as a member of staff, because that's what
Yeah.
they'll be sharing with their workforce if they want anyone to join up.
Sure, yeah, to join up to Unison, it's
Yeah.
just a monthly fee. Can join on the website, unison.co.uk. And it's a monthly fee, quite simple to sign up. You don't need to be in a recognised workplace to be a membership. And by joining up, you would then get access to your local branch where you get to meet other members. I mean, one thing that we've noticed with international workers, especially in social care, a lot of people feel isolated from their families, from their friends who have travelled a very long way. So being part of a union helps bring that sort of sense of community and welfare, but also on top of that, you then get access to Unison benefits with your membership. So not just only access to your branches and your branch meetings, but access to Unison organisers in case anything ever goes wrong and you need representation, but also a host of other benefits like the JCWI helpline, and yeah, collective bargaining and coming together with your colleagues across the sector to discuss any problems.
Thank you very much. Before James leaves us and before he loses his voice, um, does anyone else want to ask James a question before he leaves? Peter, I'm not sure if you have something as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, a couple of things. The government has promised, I think, 500 million for the financial year. I think it's 20, so the 27, 28 or 28, 29. But within the small print of that, they are saying that they expect those providers who can to work more efficiently, which means basically that they're expecting you to contribute towards the increased costs, which shows that they've pretty much adopted the Tory approach of not having any respect for the pitiful margins that social care works on. And within the chat, I see that Mercy has raised a very fair point. How can fair pay work when some LA's local authorities pay £21.32 an hour? And we're meant to pay London wages, increasing national insurance, etc. Now, Mercy, there are a lot of dom care providers out there who would be delighted to be paid £21.32 an hour. We have conversations with local authority commissioners who are still paying less than £18 an hour, and they don't think they're being ungenerous. So this is a very difficult area. We have tried to get the conversation going that there should be a pan-London fee level. And you will find that one local authority neighbouring another will argue that their area is particularly special. But to a degree, there is a real problem with the vast number of dom care agencies that are in London that are popping up every day, who are desperate for work and will always try to get business from local authorities. And local authorities in some areas don't have to put fees up because they've got a queue of people, dom care providers, who are basically prepared to work for next to nothing. And this is no good for quality. It's no good for consistency. It's no good for staff. And how this is going to tie in with the Employment Rights Bill and 0 hours, because 0 hours seems to be a hot topic. Most staff that I've had any contact with don't like it. The large providers say their staff love it and want to keep it, but I suspect that's the large providers talking for their own ends. Many small providers tell us that they don't know how they could work without 0 hours because the local authorities won't guarantee hours to them. So how can they pass on guaranteed hours? And if you're wanting to get staff that are international recruits, you cannot employ those people on 0 hours. They have to be on guaranteed hours and a guaranteed fee. And that level of pay that an international recruit has to be guaranteed is higher than that you may pay a native worker. It's above the now minimum wage. So this can cause problems within the workplace. And I'm sure that UNISON and others have come across this. So the system is not working for those within it, unfortunately. And nationally, there is a lot of work going on, and there are conversations. But as James and Ali and we all know, that trying to turn policy round is very, very slow process. And the country basically is skint. Everybody wants more money and nobody wants to pay any more tax. So it's not a good equation to try and balance out. We also have an aging population. And what is interesting is that we have, and Ali may well know the details absolutely offhand, we have an aging workforce in skills for care, in social care rather, particularly around registered managers. And a subject for another day is how we attract more younger registered managers and how we attract more younger people into social care, full stop. And if you've got any bright ideas, send them on a postcard to Dudley, please.
Thanks for that, Peter. I'll be in Parliament tomorrow trying to rally up how we can use innovation as a way of getting more people into social care, but particularly the younger workforce as well. So, as Peter said, any ideas would be more than handy.
Yeah. And many of you will have done the fair cost of care exercise some years ago, which went absolutely nowhere. But I would ask you to dust that off and keep it ready so that when the local authority offers you 3 or 4%, you can go back to them. When we talk to local authorities, commissioners, etc., we often find that when they ask providers for a breakdown of costs, those providers are not able to provide that information, that data. So you do need to be able to substantiate. And one last point, you may have seen with regard to international recruits that the system will be prejudiced against social care and in favour of the NHS. And letters have gone to a lot of MPs about this, but we would ask you to contact your MPs and your councillors about low fee rates, the way the system doesn't like this stupid bigoted system around international recruits without which social care cannot operate. And if social care fails, the NHS falls over. And these points need to be made very basically to MPs. Don't care what party they are, don't care where they come from. They're all supposed to be looking for the same thing, and they all need to know the same message. So it's easy to find out who your MP is. If you can't find out, let Dudley or I know. We'll do it for you. But we can also supply some dummy, template letters as well. Anything else for James before we let him go? You're very welcome to stay if you wish, James. Might be useful for you. But please do let me have something in writing that we can circulate. Okay,
Brilliant.
thank you.
Cheers, Peter and Dudley. I've got to shoot off, but nice to meet everyone, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. Well, thanks. Take care, James.
Thanks, James. In that sense, Ali, we will swing into skills for care. Do you want to do your slides, or do you want me to run through them?
I'll happily do my slides. In response to your query earlier, yes, I completely agree. We've got homes managers who predominantly are hitting the age of 55 now, and we're not having a follow through to pick it up. And I'm going to talk to you about digital. And digital can be one of the reasons why people don't necessarily feel that they want to take on the responsibilities that come from management. You liked that, Peter, didn't you? Nice little connection into that there. I think one of the things that's also come up is about communication. And as I go through these slides, I want you to think about communicating digitalisation, not just to the seniors in your organisation, but how you embed it within the relationship with all of your staff. So I'm going to hopefully share my screen. Bear with me whilst I sort that out. Can anybody just let me know if you see something? Am I sharing?
Yes.
You are now.
No.
Oh, marvellous. And can you see the
just-
main screen?
You just
Yes.
may need to go on
How's
from
that?
the beginning, or that's it. Well
That's
done,
the
Alan.
one. Marvelous. I use Teams so much that Zoom is not necessarily up on my skills level. But again, digital skills, it's important. So I wanted to talk to you about some of the things that Skills for Care are doing to support the adult environment, and to think about how we are going to move into this new digital world that comes upon us. I think it's really interesting that we had been asked to do a whole load of bits and pieces by the government in regards to digitalisation prior to me coming to the organisation, but nonetheless, it's really interesting to see how that is impacting the work that we're doing. One of the interesting things that we've come up with is that we were asked to create a digital skills framework, and this was to provide a self-assessment for people around their digital health. Give an example of what looks good, because I think it's important that we have a pattern that we can follow to identify what makes us a positive digital environment. We wanted to talk about supporting arranging training and ensure that providers have the skills they need to compete in a digital environment. We were asked to communicate about key digital data and technologies, and also to support the information that we collect around data and how that workforce is going and how we need to plan for the future. So we were approached by the government to look at all these things in conjunction with a lot of the resources that are out there already. But the key thing that came from this was our digital skills framework. And again, this morning I decided I would just have a little look through this to see how I felt as an ex-homes manager about how this would help me in the working environment. And I can honestly say I felt the digital framework was really useful. First of all, it's a free advice system, and it gives you the opportunity to look at certain areas of your development. Where are your staff? What are they doing with the skills? How are those skills interpreted in a day-to-day area? And how can you go further to ensure your environment is using digital in the most appropriate way for its particular business? We've got all sorts of different digital services that are out there at the moment, and a lot of the digital companies that are out there do actually offer an awful lot of support for your staff to gain that framework structure and to help you embed that within the organisation. And it's important, if you're working with digital companies, that you speak to them constantly about how they can help your organisation make the most of the software they're selling you. But in the meantime, we offered 7 key areas that really helped with our digital themes. And that gave us a framework to help people identify any planning of training they might need and how people can develop within that environment. So the key areas we looked at is obviously using technology to support person-centered care. That's often an external organisation that will have come in and sold a piece of software to you to help you manage your processes. And that's a wonderful thing, but again, it's important that it's not just something that's held in the office. When you're interviewing people and you're thinking about bringing people into the company, to my mind, this is a great thing for younger people to realise that the unique selling points that we can sometimes have within digitalisation is using software to a great outcome for people. So it's important to talk to the companies you engage with and ensure you're making the most of the resources that they have. And often these resources are free, so you can talk about that support of your software. We're also talking about technical skills for using technology. I've reached a certain age now and I've noticed my arms are getting longer when I look at things. I'm told this is to do with my eyesight, not my arm length, but I do think that we need to think carefully about the technical skills when we're using technology. My dad can't send a WhatsApp, his thumb's too big for the keyboard. That's a technical challenge. So when we're looking at our digital skills, we need to think about what are the barriers to people's use of technology within the environment. We also want to talk about how we use communication in technology. Many of you use the WhatsApp, and I really love the fact that I see on WhatsApp groups so much clear conversation going on between different providers to share skills and to share understandings. This morning on one of my WhatsApp groups, they've shared that they've got a contract that needs to be fulfilled, but they haven't got staff team to cover it. And they're able to work together across different organisations by using technology and using communications through that technology to communicate with other agencies. But when we talk about digitalisation, it's also about using that communication within your own environment. As Peter said, we do have an ageing environment of staff workers, and our care workers may not always be as confident with technology as we'd like them to be. So I'd always say, ensure that you know what the individual feels comfortable to use and think about their learning skills. We're going to talk briefly about e-connections and e-training for this. Some people don't feel most comfortable with e-training, so think about embedding the conversation about digitalisation, not just within that individual's career path, but also within supervisions, within team meetings, and so that you have a fairly clear understanding of the culture of technology within your business, not just what you've expected people to use. And that also comes around about managing data. And the skills themes that we're aiming on is looking at how data doesn't just keep records today, but helps you predict into the future. And as we alluded to when we were talking with the last presenter, keeping information is so important because it helps us understand what's going to happen tomorrow by using the information of today. Dudley mentioned that there's an awful lot of information that's being requested from us at the moment. And in a world where information is key, it is so important that we track, monitor and feed back to help us review and make better services in the future. Now, I noticed that from our display, we're going to also be looking briefly at safety and security, and I'm so pleased that Lcas is taking up some of the digital work in the local area, because I found that working with care associations around the digitalisation is a really great way of ensuring that you can link in to the digital formats that are available from the government. And I'll talk upon that briefly in a moment. Whenever you're dealing with technology, I would also ask you to look at your ethics. Technology is coming along fast, and AI is one of the main tools that needs to be thought about. Ethical use of technology is so important because it not only feeds back to the safety and security of your data, but it also ensures that the data and the information that you're recording reflects truly what the individual wants and in a respectful way. And with the pillars of our care work being always around respect and dignity, that ethical use of technology shouldn't be something that slips off the data and the security side of things. And as we move forward, digital is going to be a growing thing. Training is going to become more important, and using supports, as was mentioned by the person from UNISON, they turned around and James mentioned that he was using software to support people who are coming into this country and who may feel disenfranchised from their local communities because of ethnic creations. So when we think about well-being and using digitalisation, it goes across the board of the work that we're doing. So don't ever think that it's not part of absolutely everything you're doing. Talking to each other now, highly digitalised. So that framework helps you identify the themes that you're looking at and gives you an opportunity to think about the self-assessments. I briefly mentioned that we have the opportunity for digital e-learning, and that is available across the digital skills framework systems, and that's always available on our internet. We were commissioned to do a selection of bite-sized e-learning pieces. They're very good, and as you can see by the titles below, they give you quite a good overview of a lot of the subjects we've just discussed. However, whatever happens with digital learning, it does not remove the individual's need to discuss the things that they're learning. So whenever somebody undertakes digital learning, e-learning, have the chance to talk about how that's going to impact their work at the end of it. Now, obviously, there are an awful lot of benefits because it does give you small bite-sized structures to support your staff team. People who may feel a little intimidated sometimes by large thought of digital learning can take a small nibble on the corner of some of these courses and have an opportunity to be assessed as they grow through that journey. It's so important also we validate people's qualifications and give them a sense of pride. And I think that inclusion and the digital championship process is really important. So as you go through your staffing and your staff teams begin to develop their core digital skills, and you are able to assure those digital skills through a learning structure, you might want to think about identifying somebody who's really embraced that side of things, who could become your digital champion. Somebody who can do a little bit of that touchstone pieces to talk to colleagues about how it looks and how digital feels for them and what they can do better. And somebody who has the voice who can come back to you as registered managers, CEOs or NIs and talk about how digitalisation is being interpreted and how it can grow as we move forward. We've also then going to develop something that makes us understand what good looks like. And it's so important that good looks good to everybody and is understood by what good is going to be. We've got a framework to help people use the self-assessment structure and identify how they can baseline their journey and move on. Peter, I'm really sorry, but my dog is going crazy at the door. I'm going to have to leave for 1 second. Could you fill in for me for a second to just talk maybe about the data work that you're doing, and I'll get him out of my crying ears. Thank you.
I think I may come in here. Do you want me to come in, Peter, or what do you want?
By all means, Dudley.
Uh, so thank you so much. I think it's really important when we talk about going digital. I think this is now the modern era that we're in, and most people are using some form of system or software presently, whether it's for your day-to-day care work or if it's actually just in the office or HR or admin. We also know that the development of people using AI as well in their businesses is probably a common practice and a common theme. So I think this is really helpful for you to really look at and really analyze what you're doing. So as Ali's back and her dog has now
Sorry, it
surrendered
was the dog
to,
walker.
to her wonderful tones, we will bring Ali back in. Go ahead, Ali.
Thank you so much, Dudley. I do apologise to that, folks. My dog walker has just come to pick up the dog and his noise was too great to ignore. So, what does good look like? And this is exactly what Dudley was talking about around AI. We have so much information coming to us at the moment, but we need to be able to see the wood for the trees. And we need to know what, if CQC come along, or if we're explaining to other people what our digital footprint looks like in our businesses, we need to be really clear as to how we're describing that. So I'd say the What Good Looks Like framework is a great place to start. Looking at how it can help you benchmark, understand your position within the digital environment, and also, more importantly, explain that position and where you hope to take that vision in the future. Digitalisation is coming on strong, folks. There are more conferences, and I'm sure Dudley and Peter will agree with me, out there at the moment in regards to digitalisation than anything else. We are seeing digitalisation not just through a computer-based system, but also through robotics and through a lot of different digital tools that are going to be fed down by our community care environments. So think carefully about who may be interested in this. How are you selling this to future members of staff? And more importantly, how are you tooling up the top members of your teams and the frontline members of your teams to be able to identify opportunities for being more productive and thought-provoking? Peter, you spoke earlier about the idea that we should be more, I can't remember the word that you used, that the government is asking us basically to tighten our belts and work harder, from what I could understand. But the idea that we are having to do things in a more efficient and pragmatic way can be supported through digitalisation, and having a handle on this, understanding what good looks like in your environment, will really help you explain to CQC, providers and future workers where you stand on this. So we've got a great tool that's really aspiring the framework. It helps you break down a variety of different areas. It sits within the government pieces because we've been asked to work with them collectively on a lot of these areas. And I would ask you to take a little look at that digital framework and think about how you can become the best people you can within care. So thinking about that care matters, the government framework is improving the collection of information. It does help us collect data. And I think data is very, very important as we move forward. And we talk ourselves as we talk, and the union is very keen for us to be seen as a collected business, similar to the NHS, but a collected social care environment. And to do that, the government's going to need to know what's going on in that environment and to see whether it's something that's feasible for us. We need to be able to feed back to the government key sector data on what we need, how we're using technologies, how staff are able to use technologies, and how we're able to better manage the systems that we're on. So think about the data that we're collecting. I know we're asking this all of the time at the moment, but I think any business that is going to review itself and move forward has to understand where we stand at the moment. So we want to ensure that we've got one voice coming back. We want to use one language for our care records. We want to be able to produce information that is easily accessible and digestible and usable in the future. So this minimum operating data standards that we have will help us to develop some of the information the government needs to not only influence CQC as it moves forward into its new structures, but to also ensure that we have the funding and resources to be able to do the work we need to do. And I'm going to now promote Lcas no end, because this is where you guys are coming in the future, isn't it? Better security, better care. You're going to talk to you a little bit more about this, but within the PowerPoint, if you do want to know more about any of the better security, better care toolkits, please do go to the websites that we've highlighted in this PowerPoint. Some of the things it will help you look at and some of the data modules it's got will help you look at particularly data breaches. It's threatening at the moment to be quite a difficult time with data breaches, particularly if we have any government insecurity. It's important at this point that you think about all areas of your digital connection. Just as an aside, one of the things I used to do when teaching in digital areas is I would walk into a room with a phone that had the ability to capture all of the phones in the room. And on a number of occasions, I went in and nobody had securities on their phones. I sincerely hope that has changed a lot, but with our dependence on smartphones within our working environment, data breaches can happen at all stages of your data connections. So think carefully about how you use the work that Lcas is going to do to inform you about better security that creates better care. Again, just going back to some of the e-learning that's available to you, we've been involved in assessing some of these modules, and I would suggest that you take the opportunity to really look at the modules, work with your teams and see how that can support your teams, making sure that they feel competent through certification and the completion of courses gives you a real sense of conclusion in the organisation. Your company, your culture will reflect the need for a digital awareness and digital training. Again, the data sets are terribly important, and we've been looking at how that data set can impact the different jobs. Many of you may know that we've got a career pathway tool that we are using to support people at the moment. And part of that is not just looking at the work that we do as a frontline worker, but also some of the work we do behind the scenes. And as well as looking at some of the NI areas, we're also looking at how those digital roles within a company should look and what skills you're going to need within those digital roles to ensure that you are cutting edge for the future. So if you'd like to know any more about those roles and how we can support you in developing your business, get in touch with me. A key thing that has also come up is the Digital Leadership Award, which is really helping people work on at a senior level their understanding of how digitalisation can impact their business. It's been going for a little while now, and it's really becoming quite a good tool. I've been through it myself, and I found it a very, very useful tool to learn how digitalisation is the future, but more importantly, how we can lead people through digitalisation. One of the things that really becomes very clear to me that we get a lot of people saying, "This is great, Ali. I'll get digital, but my team don't want to embrace it. They're not keen on digitalisation. They don't want to be doing everything in this way. They find it cumbersome. They find it challenging." Well, that's where you've got to do an awful lot of leadership in the digital agenda. And you've got to think carefully about how are you taking your team with you on the journey of this? Is your digitalisation something that you are proud of and therefore consider to be a strong point that your teams need to be aware of? How have you made it accessible to people? Have you given accessibility of digital training something of a priority, or is it slipping down the agenda for you? Do you think it's important that from the very beginning of somebody coming on board with you, that they understand how digitalisation will impact their work on a minute by minute to day basis? How have you supported the staff that already exist and may feel really, really insecure about engaging digitalisation? Some of the things that we would always suggest is if you have people who are particularly reticent about bringing in digital tools or bringing in digital resources, get them in at the very early stages to assess whether those digital tools will be relevant to you. Now, Dudley and Peter, obviously, they're going to be working a lot with our better digitalisation agenda. And that's an opportunity for you to get your staff team who may be a little reticent or unclear as to how digitalisation can improve their work. Get them involved at that stage. Get them to be part of the journey and part of the positive thinking around digitalisation moving forward. So we've talked a little bit about some of the areas that we can support you with. Obviously, we've got pathways that will help you identify where you're sitting in the digital agenda already. We've also got the ability for you to assess your environment. We've got lots of tools to help you train. And obviously, the work that Lcas is going to be doing will tie very, very well into that. We've also got some wonderful webinars, and I would say that if you are interested in listening to any of the webinars, they are available for connection on our website, and you can see there's a connection through here. But sometimes it's useful to also run one or two of those in a meeting that gives you the chances to be able to discuss with your team what it looks like to be working in a digital environment and how it can benefit their days. Very quickly, AI, it's an ongoing situation. We're doing a lot of work in regards to AI at the moment and trying to come up with a tool that can help staff. The biggest thing, and I know that a number of Emily Thorne, for example, a number of the people who are pushing the agenda for digitalisation are very conscious that AI is moving quicker than we can. I would say to you, do not touch it unless you have a very, very clear ethical policy for usage. Anything that you use on things like ChatGPT is open source. Open source means it is not secure. If you are using secured systems within your own environment and your own digital platform, then make sure you've got the paperwork that supports their use in your day-to-day situation. We do not want a situation where digital breaches become something that's common within social care. And we've all got to work together cleverly and closely to ensure that we do things in an ethical, recorded, and digital footprint manner. I don't know, Dudley, I know that you mentioned briefly as I was coming back up from the dog walker entry, I know you mentioned briefly about AI. Is there anything you guys want to say? Because it is such a fast moving situation and I try and keep on top of it, but you're also at the cutting edge as well.
Yeah, thanks for that, Ali. I think one of the things, and you really alluded to it about how AI is moving so quickly. I think we have to be very honest, and I'm not gonna try and hide away from it that people are using the likes of ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini already. So the horse has already bolted, unfortunately. However, just so that you are understanding of where CQC stand, because we're in a very regulated sector, is that CQC recently had done an inspection, and when they asked the provider, the manager, about their files and records, they found that the workforce had been putting their care plans and records through ChatGPT. Instantly, that meant that they were marked down, and I believe they didn't get good, let's just say. So this is one of the questions that we will be asking is that do you know what your staff are doing with the information that they've got? Are they using it? Are they putting their care plans and records into chats boxes, which, as Ali said, are open source? That means then, so that you know, it means that the data goes and what AI does, it pulls from everything it can find, and then it will give you what they feel is the best result. So, for example, and sorry to use Ali Porteous' wonderful care record may be in the system, and now I have that to use as part of my care plan and records. This is what this is not personalized. This is what we call is just generalized information being shared rapidly. And that's one thing that we're trying to really aim against. So that's why I say AI, as much it is very helpful, also as well, remember it can be used in the wrong way. And that's probably one of the things we're trying to guard against, as well as other things. I'm not sure if Peter, you have anything to add to that very briefly in regards to AI.
Yeah, I would just briefly add that a number of providers said to me that they don't need to sign up for um, updates on the policies that they use, that they can do it all with AI, and things like contracts of employment they can get from AI. Well, you can't. Um, I appreciate that these things are a cost, and but they do need to be done and they need to be updated. And like everything, they need to be done properly. Um, and some people are not using it properly, and their policies are way out because they have borrowed, stolen, um, etc. To get those policies in the first place, and they may not have been very good policies, and AI will make them into very, very poor policies.
So can I come in here, Peter? I mean, I'm gonna more update this, and I think just because I have probably quite a bit of knowledge in regards to AI. So sorry, Ali, I'm not trying to still
No, no, sorry.
do your show, please. Um, so AI, people are going to use AI and AI will pull information. I think the issue around AI is more the fact that it's not personalized. And the reason why I'm going to just probably elaborate more on what Peter was trying to allude to is that, for example, you may pull something from, you may go into, say, for example, I'll use, for example, ChatGPT. It may pull information and that policy may be from my care home or my service, and then you will be putting it and using it as your policy. It's not personalized. What I think the most important thing, using AI is going to become a skill. So actually, it's what information you ask it and what you feed it. The more direct you are and specific, yes, you can pull out information for it. But however, many people are not at that stage, and because of that, things like people like CQC and other regulators will see between that. So if you are using any form of AI, make sure, as Ali said, the ethics, your knowledge, and what you're using is really up to speed. Even if you are employing someone who will be doing that for you full time, make sure that your knowledge is really up to par as well, because you have to justify what you're doing. And also, as well, you want your staff as well not to just put something into a chat or into some form of AI. You want them to learn so they know. It goes back to the old days where people would have these policies in the top of a cupboard, no one would read them, and then they've just done it because no one's going through that. We want care staff to actually know the reasons why they have to do things in a certain way. And by doing that, it means that they read through the policies, not just, oh, I'll just use this AI just to just find the answer. That's not really that you wouldn't want that for anyone. If it was your family members, you really want people to really go through proper inductions, understanding what they have to do on a day-to-day basis from throughout the organization. So AI, I will talk around and say AI can be used and it will be deemed as the new electricity within social care, but it has to be handled in the right way because sometimes electricity can go down and then where do you stand as well? So I will add that in so for people are aware. So that's what I would say. So yes, I know there was something in the chat box say what is wrong with the use of AI if the feedback used? And yes, I think you can have a baseline and I think you can get information from you and people are confused and not sure what they're going to do are going to use AI. I don't think that's an issue. I just think that be careful if you are going to use it, just make sure you go over, you make sure you triple check, you know what you're doing, and you cross-reference anything before you actually use that as your main source of information. So that's what I would say. And
I
I
would
really
go
like that.
slightly further, Dudley, and say justify the use.
Yeah.
Why are you using it? Is it to save you time so you provide better care, or is it just because it's there? And if it hasn't got an intrinsic use within your business and you cannot create an ethical structure to it, there's no point. But anyway, it's a long journey that we're all going to take with AI, and I think it's going to be a very fun journey as well. I'm a great believer in technology with all things, so I'm really keeping my eye on that, and I hope to be able to feed back any further information to Dudley and Peter as we come across. Are there any other questions? I can't see the chat.
If you think, I mean, you can leave that there. I mean, I think Ali as well, whilst we've got you, because Skills for Care do a lot, and I don't. It almost seems that it's the digital show, which um, a lot of it will be. But I think as well, I mean, Skills for Care are doing an awful lot, so I probably just as well share what other things that you can gain from going via
Most
Skills for
definitely.
Care, which
I'll
is
give you a
probably
couple of minutes about all the things that Skills for Care can do for you. One of the key things I would say is we've talked a lot about training, and I didn't necessarily want to bring it into this presentation because I know Peter and Dudley always put quite a rich format on. So, but the courses that I've spoken about in digital area can be claimed through the workforce development structure. So if you're not claiming money at the moment and you're not using the adult social care database, then you are losing money that you could be using to pay for training. I'm not going to go into it at length here because I do frequently. I will put a little piece on the WhatsApp if that's all right, just so that you can connect into me if you want to know more. But particularly if any of you are using things like Oliver McGowan at the moment, that's suddenly come onto people's tables where they're having to look for quite expensive training. The opportunity for you to fill in the database gives you access to the government's funding that will recoup for any costs that you may have for training. And that's really strong within the digital agenda as well. And I think it's important that people take the opportunity to use the resources that are there. Again, if we don't use them, the government will assume we don't need them. And the next thing we'll know next year, we won't have the resources we need to be able to develop the services that we have. We're doing an awful lot in regards to the fair pay area. My only concern was when we were talking earlier with James, he was saying about the 17th, and it's a lovely thing to be involved. But if you are going, please fight for the fair pay as much as people's right to stay. I think it's important we don't get these two areas confused because it's so important in London that funding is coming down that can cover the costs of the businesses that we run. So again, reflecting on what was said earlier, complete the information that we're being asked to provide because that's what's informing our funding as we move forward. We've also been working an awful lot on the career pathway, and the career pathway is a really good way of identifying how your teams are pitched against other organisations. Now, in theory, if you use the systems that we have that help you identify whether your salaries are right and some of the systems that are there within the databases that we have, please do go online. But if you want to take my email, I'm happy to talk through all of this with you on a one-to-one basis. You can then identify where your staff are with skills compared to other people in your local area and recruit your team in a way that doesn't just show their skills for the jobs they're taking on, but helps you identify how they can grow within those roles and how we can continue to build a team which is strong, young, and agile to respond to the changing needs of our society. We yesterday had a fantastic session, which unfortunately I wasn't able to join, but I know that both Dudley and Peter were there, so thank you very much for going, in regards to some of the work that we're doing on a local basis to support the development of our industry. It's important we engage with the local colleges and schools to get the next generation to appreciate the businesses that we're running. And our businesses aren't just front day work. We are doing businesses that do all different types of that development. Many of us are very successful business individuals. We have had our own businesses that have built, constructed, and developed and provide services. That's a huge skill. And it's important that we have that skill growing back up from the organic levels within our businesses again. We need to be able to have young people who are enthused at what the roles can bring, the future that care has, and appreciate that we are not just, as so many people, and I believe it was said the other day on Question Time, we're not just involved with personal care. I believe the Green leader was quite clear about bottom wiping. That is not what our job is about. Thank you, Dudley. I didn't see it, but I have heard of it. It is not what our job is about. I'm holding sessions over the next wee while, and I'll put them into the WhatsApp at the colleges to get to speak to the students about how we can get them into our working world and stop this awful situation of us all getting very old and not enough people coming up behind us. I hope that's a quick overview. I really don't want to dominate your time, but I've given my contact details. If you want to know anything more about anything I've discussed today, please email me or go to the WhatsApp and just ask for Ali. I'll come back out really quickly to you. Or if there's any queries that you want, go to our website and see how we can assist you with the information that we've got.
Thank
I
you.
think that's probably the most I can fit into this period of time.
Thank you, Ali. I think you left with a bit of Christmas cheer with some funding, because I think one of the areas that a lot of providers are looking for is whatever they can do to get any form of funding. And I think, as you know, it's always people forget that they can actually get training and actually get remunerations with the LDSS funds as well. So please do go to Skills for Care's website, or get in touch with Ali. Probably best do that first. It might be easier, and she can
The site
you.
is very big and
Yes.
we all don't have much time, whereas I know how to navigate.
Yeah.
Consider me the pilot of your boat in Skills for Care.
And so, yeah, I mean, Skills for Care also do a range of other things. They have lots of information for registered managers, deputy managers. There's elements around international recruitment. And they have their report for the state of care report, which is important because it gives you an idea of things that are happening and the stats of maybe if you're strategizing over the next year and your business planning. It's something that you can look at. So there is me supporting and doing and helping out. But please, it's a good reference point as well, a place to go to. So thank you very much for that. Peter, I'm not sure if you want to add anything to it. And if anyone's got any questions for Ali, I think it was the other thing that we forgot to ask.
Just a couple of quick points. It still amazes me that we find social care providers who have not registered with the Information Commissioner's Office. So please do that. If you subscribe to Citation, then there's a pile of data security and free training, e-learning on there available from their portal. So use that, it's good quality. And I would suggest that quite a lot of smaller social care providers are still using Windows 10 and haven't moved up to Windows 11. If you are and you don't want to go to the expense of Windows 11 and resetting up your system, might even involve new hardware, there are ways around it legitimately, and we can put you in touch with a IT consultancy that will sort those out for relatively small money. It's a couple of £100, and they will do it remotely and can do it quite quickly. So let us know, and we can help you with that. Dudley, do we want to go into the joys of BSBC or take some more questions?
Yeah, I mean, if anyone's got any questions right now, very quickly for Ali, maybe we can grab a couple of questions and then we can then go in. And then if anything, you can leave a question in the chat if need be. I'm not sure if it was the dog that scared them off or Ali was that good.
Yeah. You see, and the dog's gone out as well.
Well, thank you very much for coming in, Ali. And I know you'll be sharing some of the information to us or through the WhatsApp group as well. So please do. Thank you very much. Peter, I think we are up next, and I think you want to touch on the BSBC. I know you have a range of slides there. Did you want to bring them up
Yep.
or I'm not sure.
Yep. Have you got them?
I'm on mute now. Yeah, you can open it up to the show.
Okay. There we go.
Thank you very much. Do you want to start, Peter?
Yeah,
Or
I'll just kick off and then you can come in with your expertise. It would be interesting, I guess, to do a quick show of hands. The number of people who have actually already got DSPT in place. Up until now and carrying on at the moment, in London, the rollout of DSPT has been carried. Yep, I could have predicted that you would have it already, so, and I'm sure it's up to date. It has been rolled out through the ICSs, through the NHS, and with the new funding for DSPT, Better Security, Better Care, it has been decided that it must involve local care associations. So in London, that involves London Care and Support Forum and CPV. So we've got a few slides. It's funded by the DH. The aim is to make adult social care providers more cyber secure. And as um, was mentioned, Ali mentioned earlier, care records are becoming much more important. And as the NHS and social care work more together, you will find that coming back to transfer of patients into social care, getting records moved efficiently backwards and forwards is an aim of this. And the Digital Care Hub has got lots of information. Just mute that. So if we move on, there are some links here, which again, you'll get the slides so you can pick these up yourself. What we are finding is that at the moment, there are people who are looking to update do their annual updating for DSPT. And at the moment, we're not able to do that. In parts of London, you will find the NHS is still doing it. But if you can't, let us know and we will sort that out as soon as we are available to do it, which will be, early in the new year.
can I come in here very
Yeah,
briefly,
sure.
Peter, before you go on? So part and parcel of the DSPT and what they're looking at as under the Better Security, Better Care is just really making sure that you're cyber secure. We talked about AI, we talked about so many things happening. And going forward, we now know the ongoing development of going digital and digital transformation within the sector. Most of you are using some form of software or system as part of your business on a day-to-day basis. And we know that now when you have software and systems, there is the opportunity for people to infiltrate those systems. And then that can either mean that your systems or your software go down or you're held for ransom. if you're very unfortunate, we know there were some big, large organizations who were bigger than all of us, like the Marks and Spencers, whose information was compromised as well. So it's about protecting yourself, because now all your information, which used to be kept on pen and paper, is now and being kept via somewhere, some file, or in your that you have somewhere stored somewhere. So if that is affected, then you can't work on a day-to-day basis. So the most important thing is having your data security protection in place. But also as well, we know with GDPR as well, the information that you share is really also very important. The bigger picture is that there was a battle to integrate health and social care. And one of the things that they found, or what NHS said, is that the social care, they don't trust their systems and software, and they like to bring lots of, if we could term them, as we talked about, people carrying germs and colds and viruses. This is the sort of thing that they felt was the issue. And I think one of the things about the DSPT was to get our house in order. I know people don't think of it as much because it's not the main core side of our business, but it actually is fundamentally underpinning a lot of the things that we do. So now, in order to get things such as NHS mail, you're looking around things around elements around your universal sort of care plans, shared records, and these sorts of things. The key thing is to make sure you are compliant with your data and everything is secure and also going forward. So as much as people don't think that much of it, one of the things that we're doing in London, especially South London, is to make sure you're up to speed. You may have dealt with the Southwest London partnership, Southwest London would have supported ICS. You may know Paul Harper, or you would have gone via, for example, Southeast London, individuals there as well that would have helped you. So every year you have to update this. What we're doing is making sure you update it. I think it's around April, June is the time frame, and so we will be making sure that you are up to speed. But the key thing is what I do say for everyone, and Peter will really add to this. Before, it was one of those things you would just look at maybe once a year. I think you now have to be making sure that you're completely compliant throughout the year, making sure you're update so that you're not falling foul of things. And especially at a time like Christmas period, this is where it happens. And not just for the care homes where you're fully in charge. It's also as well for the dom care providers who may have staff, who have clients who will be using secure systems. You will also be sharing information for people so they aren't being duped out of maybe their money or compromised with their bank accounts as well. Peter, you can move on from there as well.
Okay. Thanks, Dudley. There's a good point in there. If there hadn't been the problems at CQC, it is very likely that DSPT would have been a requirement. And you'll see this on a later slide, but we are now seeing that some contracts from local authorities are insisting that DSPT is in place, and they are actually checking. And if they find that it is not current because they can access the basic details, then they will cease to trade with those providers. So obviously you don't want to lose business. Basically, it's an online self-assessment of your organization's data security. It demonstrates compliance. It's annually reviewed, as Dudley said, and it gives advice and is a checklist of good practice. Some of you may have Cyber Essentials, and there is a link between the two. Briefly, what do providers need to pay attention? Why do providers need to pay attention? Sorry. Dudley has covered most of those points anyway, and it's often a contractual requirement from councils and the NHS. So it will be your passport to shared cared records and digital innovations within the health services. So again, if you're looking to put your business forward, to keep your business going and to get clients, and we are seeing a growth of joint commissioning between health and social care. So they will be asking for the basic details. And here we've got CQC and DSPT. Care Quality Commission requires all services to keep data safe and to share it securely. You can read that just as well as I can, and you can see where it's going to fit in. And we're already seeing people being pulled up over data issues. And that also includes the use of CCTV. So if you do use CCTV, make sure you're up to date. There's a video here. There's a few points. It's worth looking at some of this stuff because it's not difficult to get through. That's the toolkit journey. You register, you complete through all the questions, publish. It's reviewed every year, goes around a bit of a circle, but it is useful. And again, like all these standards that need annually updating, such as investors or ISO standards, it's something that you can show to members of the public. It's something you can show to your staff. It's all about compliance. And the further forward the sector goes, the more this is going to be important. Again, there's more official guidance. Again, you'll get the slides. There's links onto YouTube channels, webinars, etc. And you will be able to talk to Dudley and myself and also the team of people that we will put together. So if you're interested, you can go through the pre-DSPT checklist. You can have a look at the policies that you might need to alter, how you can get going. And some people start and then pause. That's not really a good process. The best process is to simply get on with it, because if you don't, it tends to take a lot longer. But anyway, we will give you a lot more information about that in the new year. But if you have got any questions between now and then, come back to Dudley and myself. Happy to answer them. And as Ali said, there's a lot of digital information on the Skills for Care website. And I'm pretty sure that if you use LDSS funding, then you can access some training on there, or you may well have a good source of training, citation, etc. So please do use them. And I think I saw that John Buttle was with us. If there are any questions about DSPT, let us have them, please. And I think I saw that John was about. If he's got any training points, then fire away, John.
I just nothing except that I can see, and I know there's a few people here who are using the LDSS, but I know that nowhere near as many people as could access that funding are using it. It's relatively straightforward to use once you get used to it. I think that's the easy way of putting it. And it can be used for paying for quite a lot of training. We train new care staff on a weekly basis via Zoom with workbooks. We use the level 2 medication RQF, and we use that to subsidize the funding for the care certificate knowledge standards as well. We use it for diplomas, the level 2 adult social care certificate, specialist courses in dementia, and of course all the management courses that Skills for Care endorse. So if you're not already doing it, please do just Google LDSS. It's really simple and it will show you how to set up. If you're CQC registered, if you're using the old, well, not NMDS anymore, the adult social care data set, then you are already halfway there. It's very, very similar in terms of the WDF. The only thing is you have to do the claims yourself. You also, which I should mention, need to pay the training provider before you claim, because you'll need evidence of payment alongside a certificate to make the claim. So that's the only big major change, really. But there's loads of funding out there, and I'm really worried that if not enough people access it, then it'll get taken away.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And thanks for that, John. I think this is one of the things that people seem to forget in social care, because we're so busy. We actually forget that we can actually access funding, and things can be if not free, at least very highly, hugely discounted. And I think it's one of the things that people should really be aware about. And maybe what we'll do, maybe in January, if need be, we can probably have a session on how to access it, how to fill it out, and what's next. And then potentially what you can claim for. And there's a lot more than you think that you can claim for. And Ali's already mentioned Oliver McGowan. John's mentioned a lot of the sort of the training and day-to-day training, and there's a lot more now. I'm not sure, is it now the care certificate as well can be claimed for?
Well, the level 2 care certificate is funded, not
Yes,
the entry level non-regulated one.
yes, yeah. So even that, so I think people realize there's so much that you can do with this funding. But if you don't grab it whilst it's there, it will be gone. And one thing I realized that every year the government says, oh, you're not interested in that sort of funding, so we're going to limit it so it's a lot less. So, and so make the most of it. And I think the other news that people don't realize is that your international recruits will be able to actually utilize the funding as well. I believe that's the case. And is that still the case, John?
Sorry, say that again.
International
Yes,
recruits
yeah, it is.
will be
Yeah.
able
Yes,
to.
it's the same rules as WDF basically. So as long as somebody has a legal right to work and a UK national insurance number, there are no other restrictions on nationality or anything of that nature. There's no regulations about whether they're full-time, part-time, whether they're volunteer, as long as you can justify that they are working in a capacity in social care. I think one of the problems is when the WDF was going, Skills for Care were very good at promoting the funding and the training and going around to employers. And even I mean, I know it's not part of your role now, Ali, and but I know that you do still go around and do it. But there's nobody that I've come across from the DH whose job it is to go around and promote the scheme. And I think
No, it falls with
that's
us,
a real
unfortunately,
problem.
John. Yeah,
Yeah,
we are trying to promote as much as possible,
yeah,
but obviously we don't have any control over the funding as we did before, as you say.
yeah.
Whereas we were able to at least support our members in connecting with the right claiming process. But we are kind of stopped when it gets to the portal. There's loads of links I've just put in that will help out, and I'm more than happy to do a session very briefly and offer a video next time round. And obviously I promote any sessions that we run, but it is very difficult. If we lose it, we are completely scuppered,
Yeah.
because this has got to be part of the fair pay process. It's got to be part of our whole business structure as we move forward. Fantastic list, as you said, John, online. And I hope I put the connection up that will help people follow the pathway through. And I'm sure John will be in touch with myself if there's anything I can do, and vice versa.
I think it takes to probably as a group and obviously as the Care Association to probably see how best we can do that so it facilitates the training being taken up, because we shouldn't lose out just because certain things the government haven't put in place. So let's see what we can do. But definitely there may be something in there for the
I
new
would
year.
also suggest, and John may agree with me, as an old trainer myself, under the NMDS days, I used to always do the applications for my students. And Dudley and I spoke about this briefly. I would, if I was looking for a training company, I'd want to know how they're supporting me in ensuring I can claim any money back and ensuring I'm using the right courses for the right people.
Yeah.
Can I quickly ask a question, please?
Please go ahead.
My name is Elizabeth. I'm calling from Fab Domiciliary Home Care. It's interesting what you said, because I registered about 3 years ago now, and that's the period I was having the ski worker on COS. And I remember I was trying to put them through the training, but the condition there was that because they didn't spend enough time in the country, I was unable to use them. So we end up going for private training company, college, to actually put all my carer through that training. Are you saying that the procedure is different now to the people on COS?
It was different then. The WDF would have funded them. I think the problem is that there's a lot of training providers who are well obsessed with apprenticeships, really. So they will channel everything that you're asking through an apprenticeship or that kind of skills funding agency type route, where there are strict guidelines on nationality and hours worked and stuff. But WDF was always open to everybody, and so's the LDSS. I mean, but the only people you can't train are nurses. You know, you have to be careful that there are people who are not in a regulated profession. But that's about the only restriction.
So, I mean, I think
It doesn't
thanks for
cover
that.
all, sorry, Dudley.
No,
I mean, it's fair to say it won't cover all training. You know, you'll see the long list and you'll see things like the manual handling, and that one can be tricky to do as a funded course because the funding just doesn't really match up with the detail required in the course. So most training providers like us won't do it. But, you know, we've got this way that we've been using for years now, training new staff, and we do it through the level 2 medication RQF, which is a brilliant qualification. And we use the funding from that to offer the care certificate knowledge standards for free as well. So that covers everything except your basic life support. And I think most people do that in-house nowadays anyway. And things like your manual handling, you'd still have to probably find a different way of doing it.
thanks for that, John. I think what we may have to do is probably get a session in the year and actually show the range of training that's available. And listen, John is one of many sort of accredited trainers, so you may find someone else that may be doing something that John doesn't do. But John works and is on the list of things via Skills for Care as well. So I think it's good to probably have that session. And probably the other element of how to claim is probably the biggest concern, because people just aren't claiming. So I think it's a mixture of a few things. But if you have any questions, share with either myself or Peter via email, or put a comment in, or you can send something via WhatsApp, and then we will try our best to try and put you in the right direction as well.
And some of the basic training you can still get through local authorities.
Yeah.
Some of them are still doing it. And to be fair, generally where they do training, it may be very basic, but it is pretty good basic training.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't get me started on that, because it's another story. I think as a group, especially smaller providers, really don't utilize each other enough.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the things I always try and champion, especially locally, having more of a centralized service, or you can get John in and probably get him to train not just from one organization, but various organizations. But I think for me, it's a key element of how social care is going forward, and the survival and being sustainable as a business, because I know a lot of providers will tell me the cost of care and survival as a business is becoming harder and harder. So actually utilizing those who are localized to you is probably a way of going forward, and that will be very helpful. Peter, I think from that point, I think we're almost coming to an end. Just a few things in the chat. There's some discounts for social care workers. If you want, probably try and see if you can share that with your staff. The blue light card if you're not using it. But there are lots of various discounts that you can gain for the workforce. So please do search. But that's one of the things that we've pulled out. We didn't have much time on talking about the Fair Pay Agreement and the Employment Rights Bill as well. But I think a lot of things are going to be developing in the new year, Peter, aren't they? And really, we're trying our best to keep people up to speed where we can.
I think that the problem sometimes is that the changes within a week or a fortnight in politics are a few words or the status of a sentence within a paragraph, which may make a lot of difference to your MPs, but they don't actually make a great deal of difference to how it's going to be applied in real life. As we find updates that we think are useful, then we will share them. We will keep circulating and we'll put them on the website. We are able to get people to talk about them, and we have those people sort of semi-booked for the new year. The reason I say semi-booked is because when something happens that's worth running an event over, we'll get them to come in. If there's no change, there's no point. And just touching on that, I had a conversation with the new director of CQC recently, who wants to pick up on the work that Rob Assel was doing around London. And so we're proposing that they come to a couple of meetings next year. And also, we've been talking with them about learning disability and complex needs. We've also been talking with Tricia Handley at the NHS about an event on LD and complex needs, which many LD providers think is an area that's been ignored or not focused on, shall I say, to be a bit more tactful. So if those are areas of interest to you, then do let us know. We have got a couple of providers who said they would like to be part of that. But again, with all these events, we obviously want to try and make them focused on your needs. So talk to us, give us a call, and then we can see what we can work in. We've got people on a list that we can bring in as presenters, speakers, etc. But sometimes we have to give them several months, 6 months notice, whatever. But again, we can do that. And we are also looking at international recruitment. The Home Office weren't going to do anything, but they have now brought in this scheme. And we're talking to a lawyer about doing updates on that as well. Ali, I saw you waving.
I think she said she's got to go. She's got to go. She's going. I think that's what she's. I think also as well, thanks for that, Peter. Before we wish everyone goodbye, wish everyone hopefully happy festive period. I know it's going to be busy, and not, unfortunately, the sector we're in, not many people get time off, but also as well, and also wonderful new year as well ahead. We know there's lots happening. We're looking around various things during our meetings, and it may ramp up a bit more with things around tenders. We know about training, funding, international recruitment, technology. These are CQC. These are some of the things that we're looking at having, but also as well, the information that we get from you as well is very helpful. We're going to try and be a bit more interactive as well, as there's a lot going on, and Lcas will be trying to play more of a bigger role, working with the local authorities, working with the ICSs, ICBs, LGA, all these sorts of bodies. And it's a chance for you to probably also get involved as well and to make a difference as well. So we thank you very much for all the efforts that you've given us over the last 12 months. And we hope to see everyone in the new year. I think what's the date, Peter, for is it January?
It's the 14th of January. There's a link in the chat.
14th of January, and we will hopefully the world of social care doesn't get any worse than what it has been for over this period of time, and we start again. But thank you very much for really you and all the things you've done, and please have an enjoyable festive period. Peter, I'll leave it to you.
Okay, thank you. I've seen a couple of people in the chat have said, can we add them to the WhatsApp group? Yes, we can. Please let us have obviously the number, the name of your company, and the boroughs that you actually work in, so we can pop you into the right WhatsApp group. You either put them in the chat or bung them through to us by email or by WhatsApp, and we'll sort it out. Or rather, Dudley, thank you, we'll sort it out. Again, best wishes for the festive season, or the festering season, as some of us know it. And we look forward to seeing you in the new year. We will be updating all the slides. Recording from today will be on the website fairly shortly. And I'm aware that there are some updates sort of coming, which we will pick up and put on the website. So please do have a look back at that. We try not to bombard you with information through WhatsApp or email, but we do send some stuff around. So again, thank you very much for attending. Thank you very much for your contributions. If there are areas that you want to know about, let us know and we'll see what we can do. And on that, I can see there's a couple of things popping up in the WhatsApp, in the chat. So we'll pick those up and we'll respond to them. Many thanks and goodbye.